Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday morning yoga. So we're going to start out with some props here. I'm Micki, by the way, and this is my So Fine studio and my cat Luna and Lily over in the corner hiding behind the piano. So let's start out in a restful shape, but we did have some requests to build a little heat today, so we can have some of those options. And it's still a cold day, but it's going to be sunny. So maybe we'll welcome the sun with some sun salutations. So if you have some props handy, that would be helpful. What I did was take a blanket, and you could do this with a towel, and made a roll. And so this is going to go on your mat, perpendicular to your mat. And you can make it a soft roll, and you don't have to have a roll at all, but it's going to go right underneath your mid back. And then if you like, you might have blocks handy or pillows. I have a strap as well. And so we'll go ahead and start out in what's called constructive rest or reclined butterfly. So these are options, two different options. So when you come to lie on your back with the roll underneath your mid back, you can either walk your feet wide and allow your knees to tent together. Maybe you cactus your arms. Or another option would be to bring the soles of the feet together and open the knees up wide. And this is why you can see I have the blocks to rest underneath the knees. So just give yourself a moment to find a comfortable shape to arrive in. And feel free to cozy up, maybe even put a blanket over you or some socks on. We can remove those later when we build a little more heat. But as you begin to arrive, you can invite yourself to release any thoughts with your exhale. Any ruminations about the past, and any plans for the future. And just invite yourself into this present moment. Invite yourself to observe your breath. And since this is your very own practice and you are your own best teacher, you can always feel free to modify anything I suggest during class, especially if you know you have pain that you're dealing with in the body. You might just observe that and wonder to yourself, how can I support myself best? Whether that's skipping a pose or trying something different. Feel free to give yourself these supports. And if you have a sense that there's an intention for your practice today, you can bring that intention to mind. But I do have a theme for today's class. And so we're actually on the fourth yama, which is called Brahmacharya. And this is actually one of my favorite ones. It's the one that speaks to me the most because it's something I struggle with in my life. But Brahmacharya means non-excess. And as I mentioned, there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. We're on the fourth yama, which is yoga's instructions on how we most would interact with ourselves. Thank you. A little water helps too. My handy assistant. Thank you so much for your guest appearance. So this says, I have a short reading from the book by Deborah Adele. It says, Brahmacharya literally means walking with God and invites us into an awareness of the sacredness of all of life. This guideline is a call to leave greed and excess behind and walk in this world with wonder and awe. Practicing non-excess and attending to each moment as holy. Brahmacharya reminds us to enter each day and each action with a sense of holiness rather than indulgence, so that our days may be lived in the wonder of sacredness rather than the misery of excess. In yogic thought, there is a moment in time when we reach the perfect limit of what we are engaged in. If we take food, for instance, we can gain energy and vitality with food that we are eating up to a point. If we continue to eat past that point, there is a downward turn into lethargy. If we eat slowly enough and pay attention, we can find that point that sits perfectly on the line of just right. In this moment of just enough that we need, it is that moment that we need to recognize. Past that point, we begin our descent into excess. This same process is true of any activity that we are engaged in. So if the idea of Brahmacharya or non-excess speaks to you, you might try to cultivate that as an intention for your practice. You can imagine it as a glowing jewel, noticing its color and its radiance. Allow it to plant itself at your heart center. You can sense the glow filling your body, warming you from the inside. And then with your next inhale, you might flutter the eyes open and invite a little bit of movement into the body. If this blanket roll is feeling good, you can leave it right where it is. Or if it's becoming too much, you can gently move it off to the side. We'll start to windshield wiper the knees now from side to side. So you can draw them up to center if your feet were open or if your knees were open wide. And then you can gently allow the feet to walk as wide as the mat. And then float the knees over to one side. Maybe turn the gaze in the opposite direction. Inhale the knees and nose to center and exhale to switch sides. Go ahead and continue to follow the pace of your own breath, feeling into the movements of your spine. Maybe sensing any other places in the body that are experiencing sensation. We'll take one more round on each side. And if you notice that your thoughts start to wander during class, you can gently invite yourself back into your body. When you're ready, we'll roll onto one side, or you can press yourself up into a seat with your hands. And let's just move that blanket roll off to the side. Actually, let's come to a seat because I think we're going to be moving to standing pretty soon. So let's use the blanket under our seat. And you can wedge your sit bones up against the edge of the blanket so that your sit bones kind of cascade off of the edge, lengthening your spine up towards the sky. From here, we'll inhale to roll the shoulders gently up towards the ears and exhale, allow them to round back and down. You can take a few shoulder rolls, just following the pace of your own breath. Maybe you toggle one shoulder at a time. You can always reverse the direction of your toggles. And then when you're ready, we'll sync up the movement once more, drawing the shoulder blades to kiss at your back. You can roll the shoulders up towards the ears and exhale, allow them to round down. And just a few more like this. And then when you're ready, well, either you can, if you're having any wrist pain, you can always stay seated for a seated cat cow. And you bring your hands onto your knees. Inhale to reach your heart forward and exhale to round your spine back. So if you'd like to stay seated, that's fine. Or let's move into hands and knees for cat cow. So either a seated or a tabletop. And if you're coming into a tabletop, you can also use your blanket underneath your knees for a little bit more support and gentleness. And I mentioned wrists too. If you'd like, you can always bring your forearms onto blocks for a little bit more support here, and this could help if you're having wrist pain. If you'd like to, you can come into your tabletop and then we'll start a few rounds of cat and cow here. So inhale to drop the belly. Exhale to round into the spine. And go ahead and follow the pace of your own breath. Taking a few rounds of cat and cow. At a certain point, you might decide to change up your movement here. Feel free to explore either rounding through the hips into circles or maybe making a circle with the belly button. And if you're seated, you can also use that same seated position to find any movements, maybe circling the belly button. We'll go ahead and take another few rounds of breath, maybe reversing any directions of circles you've been making. If you've been making circles with the hips, you can reverse that. Or with the belly button. And when you're ready, we'll come back to neutral. And from here, we're going to explore bird dog. Now, this is one we've done before on our backs, but you might like to try it on hands and knees. If you find that it's too hard on the wrists, again, you can flip over to an upside down table on your back. So from here, what we're going to do is extend let's do it on the right side first. Extend your right leg back. You can tuck your toes under, press the heel towards the mat. Take a nice deep breath down the back of your calf and leg here. And then on the next inhale, you can lift that heel so you're pointing it directly behind you. And then maybe you reach your left fingertips out in front, and you could perhaps lift the left arm as well. Now you're welcome to stay here or in any variation, like maybe you take both hands down and just press your heel back. But we can also find a little bit of heat for the core. So on the next exhale, you might draw your elbow and your knee towards each other underneath your body. Inhale to reach them forward and back. Go ahead and take 3 more rounds like this. Reaching on your inhale, exhale to round your spine, drawing your knee and your elbow towards each other. Whenever you feel complete on this side, we'll come back to hands and knees. You can take a nice deep breath here. And if you'd like, you can either, we will be doing the other side, but I'd like to give you the option to rest for a moment in child's pose or take a downward facing dog. So if you're taking child's pose, you can bring the big toes to touch, open the knees up wide, and lower your forehead down to the mat. Take a nice deep breath in either downward dog or child's pose. Tuning in with your breath, letting go of any tenseness or tension or holding. And then whenever you're ready, we'll return to our tabletop. We'll get ready for the other side. So from tabletop, you can extend your left leg back, tuck the toes under, press the heel down towards the mat. As I mentioned before, you can do this on your back. So feel free to flip over for your bird dog on your back if you'd like. And then if we want to make this a little more challenging, you can lift the heel. So now you're pointing your heel directly behind you, and you might reach your right fingertips out in front. On the next exhale, go ahead and draw your elbow and knee to meet under the body. Inhale to reach them forward and back. Maybe you take 2 more rounds, following the pace of your own breath. And whenever you're ready for a rest and feel balanced on this side, you're welcome to sink back into your child's pose or find downward facing dog. Take another nice deep breath here. And then whenever you're ready, we'll meet back up in hands and knees. And let's all find a downward facing dog. Now, some other options for your wrists. I had to get really good at finding different options for the wrists, so, since mine can give me some issues. So what I like to do is take my 2 blocks and place my hands on the blocks, or you could also try Dolphin Pose instead. And that would be coming onto your forearms, tucking your toes under, lifting your hips up and back, just like downward facing dog, just on your forearms. Take a few deep breaths wherever you land. And then we will be making our way to a forward fold. So if you're in your downward dog, you can walk your feet towards your hands or your hands towards your feet. And I'm just going to get my blanket out of the way. So you can move your blanket off to the side. Once you arrive in your forward fold, go ahead and plant your hands either on blocks or allow them to dangle towards the ground. And then we'll find halfway lift, pressing into the blocks. Or you could bring your hands up to your shins or your thighs and press for lifting halfway with a flat back. Exhale to forward fold. And inhale to circle sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, draw the hands to the heart center. So now that we're standing, we're going to try a few sun salutations, or actually half sun salutations. So for your half sun salutations, it's exactly what we just did. I'm going to bring the blocks out in front, but you can always use your thighs or your shins to press into. So from standing, we'll inhale to reach the arms up and overhead. Exhale, draw the hands to the heart center. Inhale to sweep the arms up and overhead, and exhale to swan dive forward. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And then inhale to circle sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale to draw the hands to the heart center. And that's one complete round of your half sun salutation. So let's go ahead and do a few more rounds at your own pace. Let's each do about 3 rounds, trying to build a little bit of heat in the body. Inhale to reach the arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And inhale to circle sweep your arms back up and overhead. Exhale to draw the hands to the heart center. Go ahead and take 2 more rounds, following the pace of your own breath. And 1 more round. And we'll meet back up at standing. And from here, we're going to find a lunge. So you might take your blocks and you can either do a high lunge or a low lunge. So we'll take our blocks on the high setting, or you can bring your hands to the mat, step your left foot back, and you can keep your heel lifted here and bring your hands to your hips and come upright. Or if you'd like to, you can land that knee and find a low lunge, bringing your hands up to your hips. This is going to require a little bit less balance, but you might like padding underneath the left knee. So here we're in a low or high lunge, either crescent moon or Anjaneyasana. And then you might go ahead and lift your arms up if you're feeling strong and steady in your base. Lifting your heart, lifting your gaze. And then maybe you interlace your fingers, bring your hands behind your head, and allow your shoulders your elbows to lift up towards the sky. On your next inhale, you can reach your hands back up towards the sky. And then we're going to find a twist. So go ahead and bring the hands to the heart center. And you can slowly turn to the right, as much as feels good to you. Some people like to hook that left elbow onto the right knee for a little more leverage. You could also open your arms up wide to the right. On the next inhale, go ahead and slide your hands back up to center, reaching the arms up and overhead. And then we'll exhale to bring the hands onto the mat or onto blocks. And you can tuck the back toes under and lift the back knee if your knee was landed on the ground. And then go ahead and walk or hop or step both feet forward to meet. Coming into a forward fold, you can allow yourself to gently ragdoll forward, letting everything go. Maybe you grasp hold of opposite elbows, and you can begin to gently shake your head no, and nod your head yes. And then we'll release the hands down. We can bring the hands to the shins or the blocks, and we'll inhale here for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, circle sweep the arms up and overhead, and exhale, draw them to your heart center. Go ahead and take a moment in mountain pose with your hands open wide to the sides to check in with your breath. Sense that glowing jewel of your intention at your heart center. Notice if there's anything you want to do differently on the next side to help honor that intention. You might come back to the idea of non-excess. How can we work at just the right point, balancing our effort and our ease? And then when you're ready, we'll inhale to circle sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive forward. You can bring your hands onto blocks or on the mat. And then we're going to do the other side. So you can step, oops, my foot was stuck to my mat. Step your right foot back. So now you're in a high lunge with the knee lifted. And like I mentioned before, if you'd like, you can bring your hands to your hips and come upright. This is going to require quite a bit of balance. So I'm going to prefer today to soften my knee towards the ground. You can always bring padding underneath that right knee. Even if you didn't have a blanket, you could actually fold your mat over to sort of double it. And then we'll come upright either with the knee lifted or the knee lower. So we're coming into our lunge. And you can bring your hands to your hips. Once you feel that you have a strong, steady base, go ahead and inhale to sweep the arms up past the ears, finding your upward salute, bringing the hands up, lifting the gaze. From here, we'll come into a twist, so you can bring the hands down to the heart center, and then start to turn your torso and your heart over towards that front knee, which is your left knee. You could always bring your elbow down to hook onto the outside of your thigh, or maybe it would feel good to open the arms up wide to the sides. Take another nice deep breath here. And then with your next inhale, we'll sweep the arms back up and overhead. Exhale to draw them back down to the mat or to the blocks. And then you can tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee to come into a lunge, and then walk your foot a little bit at a time forward to find your forward fold. Take a nice deep breath here. And once more, you might ragdoll forward, wrapping your hands around your opposite elbows and rocking a little side to side. Go ahead and release your hands down towards the mat. And then we'll bring the hands onto shins or blocks and inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale. Sweep the arms up and overhead, coming to stand. And exhale, draw the hands to the heart center. Take another nice deep breath in your mountain pose. You can release your hands to your sides. And then we're going to come into a wide-legged stance. So you'll probably want to come onto the side, the long edge of your mat. You can walk your feet out. And then if you have a block or two, you might bring them out in front, because that could be handy as well. Remember, you can always use something else, like a book. A calculus book would work really well. I've seen somebody do yoga with calculus book on Instagram, actually. All right, so let's come into our wide-legged stance, and your feet are parallel. You can slightly pigeon toe even your toes in for a little more stability. And then go ahead and reach your arms out wide. So we're coming into a 5-pointed star. Imagine yourself growing in each direction, taking up space. And then with your next exhale, you can float the hands down behind you, and you might interlace the fingers, or you can hold on to the back of your shirt. And then with the next exhale, go ahead and lead from the heart. Allow yourself to come into a forward fold, hinging at the hips. You can allow your head to bow. Maybe you keep your fingers interlaced at your low back or holding on to your shirt or at your hips. If your fingers are interlaced, it might feel good, but don't force it if it hurts your shoulders at all. To gently lift your fingers away from your back so that your knuckles are pointing up towards the sky. On the next exhale, lower your fingertips back down. You can release the fingertips and allow them to trace the back of your legs. Let's bring the hands onto blocks on the low setting, and we'll inhale here for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And then go ahead and plant your right hand, and we'll bring our left hand to our left hip. So now your right hand is planted either on the block or the mat underneath your face. And then you can start to turn the heart up towards the sky. Maybe it would feel good to reach the left fingertips up and overhead, lifting your gaze and lifting your heart. On the next exhale, we'll flutter that hand down, reach it underneath the body, across towards your right toes. And then if that feels good, feel free to take 2 more rounds. Inhale to lift the left hand up. Exhale to lower. One more time on this side. And the next time your hand comes down, you can return it to the block. Now we'll shift the left hand to center. So your left hand is right underneath your face. And you can bring your right hand to your hip and then start to turn your gaze up and turn your torso up to the right. Maybe you reach your right fingertips up towards the sky, but if it feels pinchy on your shoulders, you could always just leave your elbow resting at your hip, or leave your hand resting on your hip, I should say. On the next exhale, go ahead and reach the right fingertips underneath you towards the left foot. And then we'll return to whichever variation on the right feels good, opening up the shoulder towards the sky. Exhale to gently release. Inhale to turn up towards the right. And exhale to release. You go ahead and bring both hands to blocks or to the mat, and then we'll pivot so that the toes are now pointing out to 45 degrees, and you're coming into almost like a sumo squat here. We'll reach our hands up towards our knees, coming into our sumo squat. It doesn't have to be that low even. You can just have a gentle squat, like you're sitting on a horse. You might slide your hands down towards your knees, right above your knees, and then bring your left shoulder over towards your right knee. Inhale back to center, and exhale, we'll rotate the left shoulder over towards the right knee. Or actually, I think I said the same thing twice. So alternate side to side. And once you feel complete from left to right, we'll come back up to our horse squat, and then you can lengthen the legs long, walk the feet back into center. And just take a moment to shake it off, allowing the arms to gently graze your sides with a gentle, soft massage. When you're ready, we'll come back to the top of the mat, and you can bring your blocks with you. From standing, we'll inhale to sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive forward. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And go ahead and plant the palms. You can walk the feet back to find downward facing dog. Either take a few breaths in down dog or feel free to lower your knees into child's pose. And if you're in your down dog, you might like to build a little bit more heat coming through for a few rounds of plank. So from your downward facing dog, and you can always skip this part too, if you have enough heat built in the body. You might come forward to a plank, and you can always do a plank on your knees as well. Take a few rounds of breath wherever you've decided to land, in child's pose or in your plank. And eventually we're going to all make our way onto our bellies. So you can come down any way that feels comfortable to you. If you're in your plank, you can always lower down onto the knees, lower down onto the belly, and then we'll extend both legs back, untucking the toes. So now the tops of the feet are on the mat. You can plant your elbows underneath your shoulders, press your palms onto the mat, and energetically drag them back as you lift the heart forward for Sphinx pose. Take a nice deep breath here. You can keep a soft gaze in your Sphinx, or if you'd like to try a little bit of a twist and maybe a stretch for your neck, you could peek over your left shoulder. Inhale back to center. And then on your next exhale, maybe you peek over your right shoulder. And if that feels good, you might try that movement once more on each side. And then we're going to lower down into crocodile. So you can stack your palms, bring your elbows out to the side, and allow your forehead to rest on the back of your hands. Take a nice deep breath here, softening your effort. And then when you're ready, we'll turn the gaze over to the left, and you can float your hands behind you so that your palms are now face up. If your temple doesn't quite reach the mat, you might tuck the toes under and just glide the body forward to make a little more space for your temple to reach the mat. Or you could use a block underneath your head or a blanket. Allow yourself to continue to soften all of your effort, relaxing into the earth, softening the shoulders. And then on the next inhale, we'll lift the gaze to center. And then you can lift the arms, lift the legs to come into locust pose. Balancing on the belly like a flying superhero. And you can always stay right here, keeping a smooth, steady breath, or with your next inhale, you might float the arms up past the ears. Exhale, swim them back. Go ahead and take 2 more rounds like this. And then after your next exhale, you can flip the palms so they're facing up. Turn your gaze this time to the right and soften your left temple to the mat. Once more, you might need to glide your body a little further forward to make some room to rest your temple. But allow yourself to really delight in this time of rest, softening all of your effort, relaxing your shoulders, your glutes, any other areas that might have tension. And then when you're ready, we're going to open our arms out wide to the side to form a letter T shape with the arms. And we're going to do a little chest opener here. So if any of this doesn't feel okay, then you know you can always modify, find something else that might work. So you might creep your right fingertips directly behind you as you roll onto your right side. Maybe you have a pillow or a block that you want to rest your head, or if your head feels okay, resting on the ground. And you can keep your left hand tapped into the earth, finding maybe a little leverage there and support. And you can always leave your legs stacked, or you might bend into that top leg, the left leg, and place the left foot behind you. Another option, if that doesn't feel good, would be to reach down with the hand to grasp hold of the ankle of the left foot. So you're reaching with your left hand, the top hand, allowing the left knee to float down towards the right knee. Notice if you can soften here. Remembering that it's okay, wherever you land, each pose is infinite. So where you are today is going to change from day to day, year to year. Whenever you're ready, you can release the foot, bring the legs back to stack, and then we'll roll back onto the belly, and you can reach the left fingertips behind you now as you roll onto your left side body. Maybe you place a block underneath the temple or rest your head on the mat. And you can keep your right hand in contact with the earth. Maybe you bend into that right knee and place the right foot behind you if that feels okay. And that third option is to reach your right hand down to grasp hold of the right ankle, allowing the right knee to soften down towards the left knee. You can actively flex your toes towards your knee to keep some engagement in the legs. Take a nice deep breath here. Just noticing any sensations in your body. And on the next exhale, go ahead and release your foot if you're in a bind. And you can roll back onto the belly. And then we'll press the palms underneath the shoulders. You can tuck the toes under and lift up through either plank or table. And then find downward dog or child's pose. Take another nice deep breath in your child's pose or your downward facing dog. And then when you're ready, we'll press up to tabletop, but you can keep your knees wide this time. So if you were in your child's pose and your knees were wide, you can leave them there. If you're in down dog, you can open your knees a little wider, bring your big toes to touch. We're going to come into thread the needle next. So if you want to take a gentler version, you could just simply bring your left hand underneath the body and land on the shoulder. But we could also do a little bit of opening first. So only if this feels okay for your shoulder. Go ahead and bring the left fingertips to the base of your left ear. And then we'll inhale to lift the elbow up towards the sky. And exhale to release the hand underneath the body to come into your thread the needle. You can soften your left temple towards the mat. Maybe you continue to support your weight with your right hand, or you can walk your right hand out in front, like child's pose, or maybe spin that hand around and allow it to rest at your low back. So finding whichever variation works for you on this side. Take a nice deep breath. And then we'll get ready to unwind. So you can plant your right palm, press into the earth to come back up to tabletop. This time we'll bring our right fingertips to the base of the right ear. Inhale to lift the elbow up towards the sky. And then exhale to release the fingertips and thread the arm underneath the body. Allowing your right temple to rest. You can continue to support yourself here with your left hand, or walk the left fingertips out in front, or maybe you spin the left hand around and allow it to rest at your low back. I think the kitty's ready to go back in the house. I don't know if you can hear her crying. Take another nice deep breath in your child's or in your thread the needle. And then we'll land the left hand back underneath the shoulder. You can press back up to your tabletop. From here, we're going to walk the knees forward. And then you can come to sit with your feet planted in front of you and your knees up towards the sky. Let's go ahead and lift the arms. And right here, we're in a version of Navasana boat pose. But you could also bring your hands behind your thighs and start to play around with balance, maybe lifting one foot and then the other one. You could also lift and extend your arms. So you might just play around here a little bit with balance. And then when you're ready, we'll land the feet, reach the fingers out in front of you. Go ahead and press the palms now like you're going to press against the wall in front of you. And you can slide the hands back behind you. You could stay right here. This is a nice chest and shoulder opener. Or you can walk the heels in and maybe lift the hips to come into altar pose. Sending your gaze towards your navel, up towards the sky, or maybe allowing it to fall back behind you if that feels okay. On the next exhale, go ahead and lower the hips back down. We'll walk the knees, feet out in front. Reach the hands forward, and then you can slowly start to cascade down onto your back, drawing your knees in towards your chest. And if you have that strap handy, you could also use the strap around your knees. Let's go ahead and rock a little side to side. You might start to draw a circle with the knees. And then circle the knees in the opposite direction. And then when you're ready, you can release that strap. We're going to get set up for a twist. And so with your twist, you can have a lot of different variations. But if you have a bolster or a block, that could be handy for underneath the knee. So from your back, you can bring both knees in towards your chest. And the gentlest version is just going to be float the knees over to the left Extend the arms open and send the gaze over to the right. Maybe you want to extend that left leg long and bring the right knee to rest on a bolster or a pillow or even that blanket roll. Find whatever works best for you and your body. And allow yourself to soften here. Take one more nice deep breath wherever you landed. Softening into your twist. And then once more, we'll release the twist, drawing the knees back to center. You could give yourself another hug, maybe stretching the nose up towards the knees. And then go ahead and twist over to the right, landing both knees to stack, or maybe extending that right leg long and bringing a bolster to rest under the left shin and inner thigh. And you might send your gaze over to the left. Allow yourself to soften here. Take one more nice deep breath. And then whenever you're ready, you can come out of your twist and lie flat on your back. We're going to be moving towards our final rest, but before we do that, I'd like to leave a little time for yogi's choice. So I'm going to demonstrate an idea that you could do if you had either a wall space handy or a piece of furniture like this couch that I have here. So one option would be pigeon, which I think we've done maybe in a previous class, but another one would be on your back is figure 4. So if you wanted to scooch to a wall space or a bed, the edge of your bed, you could bring both your feet to rest on the wall or on the couch, and then bring the left ankle over the top of the right thigh. And this allows you to be sort of hands-free in your figure 4. But another option, if you didn't have a wall or a couch cushion to rest your foot up against, would be to weave your hands underneath the back of your right thigh. Or even use that strap or anything you're using for a strap underneath the right thigh. And this is a nice hip opener, stretching the glutes, and hopefully starting to allow for some softness other places. Perhaps you can find softness in the temples, in the jaw, and in the shoulders. You can start to make this a really more active pose too by gently flexing the left toes towards the knee and pressing that left thigh and knee away from you. Take another nice deep breath here in your figure 4. And then whenever you're ready, we'll release this side. And then you can cross your right ankle over your left thigh. Press the right knee away from you and flex the toes towards the knee. Allow yourself this moment to settle into the shape, noticing where you can soften your body, balancing your effort and your ease. Take another nice deep breath here. And then you could always stay at this wall space or couch cushions for a gentle inversion. So if you're resting your feet up against a bed or a couch, you might just shimmy up to that edge and allow your feet to rest up on the couch cushions. If you're at a wall space, you could extend your legs up the wall. And if you want a little bit more height for the hips, maybe you have a pillow that you'd like to slide underneath the hips. So I like to press my feet into the couch to lift the hips and then slide a pillow underneath the hips. And just allow gravity to shift in the body. This can allow our lymph system to drain. And just give us a new perspective. So feel free to rest here for all or part of your Shavasana, your final resting pose. Or you can move into Shavasana at any time. Laying on your back, maybe draping a blanket over your body, resting a pillow over the eyes could be nice to cut the light. And as you begin this rest, you might notice where in the body you can soften your effort. Releasing any tension from the forehead. Relaxing the eyelids. Softening the hinge of your jaw. And allowing your shoulders to rest heavy. You might take a moment to revisit your intention for your practice today. And I'll revisit the idea of Brahmacharya, non-excess. So I'll come back to one more reading from the book by Deborah Adele, The Yamas and the Niyamas, exploring yoga's ethical practices. And she says, we are here on this world in part to feel enjoyment and pleasure. If we are in the pleasure and not the addiction, we are practicing Brahmacharya. Non-excess is not about non-enjoyment. It is actually about enjoyment and pleasure in its fullest experience. Overindulgence snuffs out the life force. Practicing non-excess preserves and honors this life force within us so that we can live with clarity and sacredness. If we stop and pause for a moment, we know that it is the simple things that stir our soul and bless us with happiness. The wind in the trees, the colors in the sky, the touch of a loved one, the delight of a child, a shared moment with a friend can fill us to overflowing. This overflowing is expansive and humbling, and much different than the satiation of excess. When gratitude and wonder sit in the heart, there is no need for excess. Seeing everything as holy brings a continuity to life. It grounds us in centeredness, whereas excess overdoes us, overextends us, and takes away from ourselves. Seeing everything as sacred firmly roots us and balances us. You can allow those words to gently wash over you. And then imagining any thoughts like beautiful, graceful butterflies. You might allow them to flutter away, knowing that the ones you need most will come back at the exact moment that you need them. Allow yourself to rest heavy on the earth, feeling the support and the resources, the abundance that surrounds you. Now take a moment to come back to your intention for your practice. Imagine it as that glowing jewel. Notice the color. And with each inhale, imagine it growing brighter. Filling your body with the color. Imagining it glowing out through your skin. Take a moment to zoom your awareness out into the universe. Thinking about how big the universe is. And start to cultivate some gratitude that you get to be alive here in this time and place. What a miracle it is. And then take a moment to notice your glowing form on the earth, surrounded by a whole community. Feeling gratitude for all the people that came together. And you can begin to deepen your breath, maybe inviting some movements into the fingers, into the toes, gently rotating the wrists and the ankles. And then go ahead and reach your arms past your ears and find a long body stretch. Reawakening the body. And then you can roll onto one side and find a fetal position. Cradling your head on your biceps. Take a few more nice deep breaths there. And whenever you're ready, you can press yourself up into a seat. When you're ready, you might inhale to circle sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale to draw your hands to your heart center. And you can feel free to inhale and join me for one round of Om, and then we'll chant Shanti, 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 which means peace, peace, peace. Take a nice deep breath for Om. Om. Shanti. 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 Allow your head to bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts about class. 1 second and I'll stop the recording.